What is up, Miami? Listen to WVUM 90.5 FM, the voice of the University of Miami. And welcome. If you're tuned in because you're listening live in your car set radio, because you're tuned into 90.5 FM, welcome. Or if because you went on WVUM.org, clicked the listen live button, which means that you'll be streaming anywhere live from the world in studio, welcome as well. Y'all know what this is. This is Code 305, hosted by yours truly, Octavia Rios. And this is how I keep it, man. I bring on people from the city of Miami or just special guests in general, and we go into what they do as a profession, not only what they do as a profession, but we talk about a topic that's associated with Miami. So it could be anything economic, political, or social, and we shed the positive or negative light or just reflect how those both may be looked at, whether it be good or bad. I have the pleasure this week to have in studio, ladies and gentlemen, Darwin Figueroa. He is the creator of the media group Phresh, and he is the host of his podcast, Que Bola. Darwin, how are you, my dude?
Doing great, man. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show, letting me express myself over your airwaves.
No problem. So I'm gonna let the audience know, guys. We picked the topic today that we're gonna be discussing in regards to Miami, is the wealth gap that we're experiencing in the city. And we're going to talk about, what is happening with that, why is it happening, and any possible solutions to those problems that we're facing. And then later on the show, we're going to dive in with Darwin and talk about what he's doing with his projects and how he's trying to create and paint a picture of Miami, if anything, just reflect that, whether it be through apparel or the podcast that he does. So, Darwin, before we go in, did you go to the football game yesterday with the University of Miami versus FIU Panthers?
Yes, I did. I was there representing, I'm a South Florida native, born and raised in Miami.
Wait, what colors were you repping, though?
I was repping the green and orange,
Oh, okay. Just checking. We'll go on.
Yeah, definitely. I actually went to FIU, but when I was growing up, FIU didn't have a football program or anything along those lines. They didn't have any athletic department or anything like that. So I was always a UM fan growing up. As an adult, I'm not going to give up the green and orange,
Of course. It's in the blood.
I'm a diehard Canes fan, season ticket holder.
Of course. Thank you for that.
I think this is my 9th or 10th year.
Dope.
Yeah. Been going to the game since back in the OB. And yesterday was pretty fun,
I think it was pretty cool because a lot of the Miami, it was pretty much, I had friends that joked around, called it the Croqueta Bowl. And
They should have,
right? Because it's pretty much everyone, it was a celebration of Miami, I would say, just because of the fact that you have a lot of students that are from Miami pretty much go to FIU.
Yeah.
Predominantly on campus, we have like about, 45% of the student body is from the New England area. So majority of the students are, New York kids or Jersey kids. But it was fun to see that blend together because it's two Miami schools, crosstown rivals. And it was pretty much a celebration of Miami, I would say.
Definitely. My only suggestion would be that next time they invite the Miami-Dade Community College band.
Yeah.
So it could be a complete Miami Fest.
They should have.
UM, FIU, and Miami-Dade. So everybody will be there. It's a straight up Miami.
Exactly. It was,
pachanga.
Exactly. Tremenda. But, for me, I was tailgating with like a lot of students and whatnot, and it was pretty dope, man. And we saw, I think it was one of the times that, because we usually go to the tailgates, and it's just people that go out to those football games are from Miami. I would say it was like the diehard Miami fans, the street guys, the guys that they know what it is to rep the orange and green.
Yeah.
But in regards to like where I was at, man, it was pretty cool because there's a lot of FIU, fraternities out there that were, tailgating, hosting those stuff. There was a lot of Miami, like own tailgates too, amongst the student organizations. But it was dope. It was a good time, man. I would say.
Did you tailgate?
I was on the yellow lot. So
yellow, west or east?
I think it was east.
Oh, okay.
I'm mistaken.
I always do west side. I'm a west side tailgater. So for sure, I've always been west side, west 21, west 11.
I feel you.
It's always west side for me.
No, but it was a good atmosphere. It was hype. There was a lot of hype in the game. A lot of people want to see it just because they want to celebrate the Miami.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Miami got the W, which was awesome. But yeah, there was a lot of different fans out there. It was straight up like Westchester Fest kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. No, seriously, it really was that. It really was that.
It was a fun time. I enjoyed it, man.
Absolutely.
It was a fun game.
So let's dive into the topic this week. We're going to discuss the wealth gap in Miami. These are two topics that are very passionate to you and I, as I've noticed when we were speaking about it, just because that, man, we see this every freaking day that we go out, man. Every time we're on the streets, it's just something that it's because of the wealth gap that we see before our eyes that really frustrates us, right? I just want to start off by just pretty much shedding light on what's happening with that, right? So I actually did a research paper that I investigated that. We each did our own little research on it. But pretty much, what I found, one of the main reasons, what's happening right now is that property value is a lot higher than the wages that we're earning right now, right? And ever since I was a kid, I can remember my parents always complaining about how much, how expensive it was, how much expensive it is to be living in Miami, and be having to pay the bills and just it going up every time just because the city is growing more and more. And I don't know if you had any experiences with that when you were growing up as well.
No, definitely. I mean, I was born and raised here, right? So I'm a first generation, my parents immigrated from Colombia. Both my parents are Colombian. My sisters, I have two older sisters. They were both born in Colombia. I was the first one born here in the United States, so I'm the first anchor baby, So that was my position. I grew up in South Florida, seeing the old South Florida, and now with the coming of the new South Florida, it's a fun time to be a part of it. But there's, like we were talking, there's a lot of certain things that are changing the dichotomy of it.
Absolutely.
It's like a give and take. South Florida is a beautiful place. It's situated like on the water. It's great for fishing. It's great for being able to relax, yoga, etc. But at the same time, people who are living their lives here, who don't have those kind of luxuries, don't have those kind of resources, and are actually living like a regular life. They don't go to the beach every day.
Right, of course.
Those people are struggling.
Absolutely.
Growing up, it was always a really good city for first generations because it gave a lot of people opportunities to come up through the ranks. Everybody knew somebody who had just gotten here. You still know somebody who just got here. But back then it was like everybody had just gotten here.
Right.
Somebody had just gotten here from another country, etc. And you were always putting on for each other. Over time, what happened was, in my perspective, is South Florida has been exposed to the world, and the world has come to know South Florida, and Miami in particular, how beautiful it is. How pristine the water is here, how awesome the area is. So we have gotten on that global stage, and now that brings competition, just like anything else.
Of course.
It was like a little hidden secret.
It was America's hidden secret for a little bit. We were the only, and if you look at just to just piggyback off of what you were saying as far as what attracts people to come to the city, right? If you're someone that's looking to invest into property value that's here, right? You're looking for all those features that you name, that you can live, you stay close to the beach. The culture here, it's very vibrant. There's a lot of new expansion, a lot of new opportunity. I mean, Amazon was considering South Florida as one of the headquarters to set up its base here. And it's for a reason. Like you said, now we're showing off that, we used to be that hidden secret. Now we're on the global stage, right? And it just on average, like you would see, like just as far as like how much homes are now, you have it ranges from 300,000 to 600,000.
Yeah, and 300,000 is like a shack that needs like another 100,000 to even live in that.
Boom. So then that's the other problem. So let's say you do find these houses that are affordable, let's say, quote unquote, they're not even up to date with the coding. They're not even able to, you're going to spend a lot more in repairing the house than what you would originally buy for it. You know what I'm saying? So that being the case, it's really frustrating because you see that how expensive these houses are, but are they really worth what we're paying for, right? And especially for someone that, like you said, if you're living in the city, first gens that came here, you don't have those high-end jobs that pay a lot more than someone that's like what I say, working in Brickell or just working on the real estate development that's taking place. It makes it very, very hard for those that are living here, and that's one thing that I remember my parents always complaining about. It was like, listen, Miami's expensive, man. Miami's straight up. My dad, every time I would go to work, on my way to school, my dad listened, hey son, this place is too expensive, tal, tal, tal. And I was like, I was wondering, like, what is it that's making it expensive? I would hear this all the time. And, going into the research, it's the foreign investors, like you said. It's because we're being put on a global scale now. It's because we're wanting to compete with the Tokyos, the Londons, the LAs, the New Yorks. You now need to allow that to be able, like you said, it's competition, right? So in order to compete, you need to let those that want to invest in those real estate developments go ahead and invest. And those people come from Canada, Brazil, just to name a few. I just come outside of the country, that come from outside of the country and just
Venezuela.
Argentina. Oh my God, yes, absolutely. And you see and it's funny because Miami experienced during the housing crisis, we crashed, man. All those luxurious apartments that were popping up, those luxurious condos that were in downtown on the beach, they were ghost towns for a little bit up until 2010. And because of these foreign investors, they now gave a little bit more. They gave back the life that was missing for a while here. So it's almost like, we understand that it's expensive, but that's kind of what you said. It's just, it's competition. Like, how else are you supposed to adapt to the situation?
It's a weird situation, man. It's a weird situation because the thing is, like, all right, you're saying I'm a person who's a first gener, right? So that means just by definition, I don't have generational wealth, Like, I'm coming here and I'm establishing myself, my family is establishing themselves. And it's cool if it's a hidden gem where you're establishing yourself and nobody's really messing with you. But now when it comes to like people who are trying to establish themselves in the city and they're competing with people who have generational wealth, people who are coming from other parts of the country or even other parts of the world, it's not a fair kind of competition. Like, point and simple, is not fair. It's not, you're fighting against people who have liquid cash. They have liquid resources that at any moment they could snatch up a house. Like, if I was in a bidding war, right? I was trying to purchase a house, right? Somebody comes through with money and just bought the house out. Like, I could try to finance it, but if they're gonna say, well, I have 700,000 cash, like, what are they gonna say? They're gonna say,
I'll be there. Yeah, exactly. That doesn't sound like a bad deal. I might take on that.
I don't blame them for that.
Right.
But at the same time, it sucks.
Right, of course.
It's one of those situations where it's like, okay, where do I get in? Where do I fit in? Where does me and my family fit in?
Of course.
And like, we're trying to establish ourselves here and we're trying to grow. How do we do that? It's cool if you have like 3 or 4 generations already that have been doing their thing and they've been growing steadily. But I mean, if you don't have that, then you're at a detriment.
Absolutely.
It's like you're like steadily swimming upstream.
Absolutely.
Against the current, and it's just like that's why so many people are leaving.
Yeah,
I have so many friends who have left South Florida. Unfortunately, they're going to like other places because they don't have the resources to stay here.
Absolutely.
They move to like a popping place like Raleigh, Durham. I have friends that have moved to North Carolina. I have friends who have moved to Tampa, to Orlando. Not even that far up north, but it's way more affordable in Orlando, way more affordable in Tampa.
Absolutely.
And they're like, okay, well, over here I could at least establish a foothold for me and my family. Like, South Florida's become that place where you're losing that.
Yeah.
Just the other day, Little Haiti, I was reading an article by a friend of mine who I interviewed, Christian Portilla. She did an article for Vice how Little Haiti is basically being bought out by developers. So like, Little Haiti is one of those places that has unique cultural identities, right? It's part of South Florida. People don't like, I don't know, I was born and raised in Miami, and when you see South Florida, you always assuming it's like, Cubans or Colombians or like Latin Americans, right? But Haiti has its own foothold here as well.
Right,
it's part of the Caribbean.
Yes.
We also have like West Antilles. I have friends from like Antigua and from like St. Thomas and all those other places, that are represented here as well. They have their own little cultural niches, but the thing is, now they're being just basically run out.
Of course,
they run out of their areas.
Absolutely.
So where do these people turn to? Where do they go?
Correct. And it goes back to, so let's say it's all first generation people that have not even had generations before and that set up some sort of income in this area. So even let's say you're someone that has a college degree, right? I actually read somewhere in the same article that I did for the research, that when you have even like a college degree and you're a couple that goes together, and let's say you're making 6 figures, that's not a bad 6 figures starting couple, put together, that's a good money you're making generating in a year, correct? But even with that, even having a high education level in the city of Miami, it's still not enough, because then it goes back to, okay, do we even have, that's already, mind you, you're making, let's say 120,000, right? That's good money. But if I'm telling you that the average home right now in Miami is 300,000, that's double that's literally, you're making half of what you're supposed to be making in a sense, because that doesn't mean you're not making the 300,000 to even buy a house. So how long do you have to save up for that? And then once you find the houses that are affordable, like you said, don't even up to code, they're too old, because I would say that the city did not anticipate the way it's blowing up now.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to think about it, because I mean, if people are in the process of trying to establish themselves here with family, right? How do you do that when you're competing with people who are coming from outside of the city to establish themselves here, have all the resources, and could start a business, could buy a house, could buy 2 or 3 houses? they get their resources and they park them here, right? So you're not only fighting against people who have resources, but you're fighting against the parked resources, because you're bringing all this liquid money, right? You're buying up condos, buying up houses. That money could be put to use in other ways.
Correct.
That would help the community.
Correct.
But if you just park it in a condo or something, you're just a rent seeker. And when you're a rent seeker, you're not contributing to the community in any way, shape, or form.
Of course.
All you're doing is you're trying to extract as much money from the community.
Absolutely.
So then the rent seekers are the people from outside the community, outside of the city. You know what I'm saying? They're coming with their money. They're the rent seekers. They're extracting all the resources out of the people who are locals.
Exactly.
Here. But they're like, well, I can't buy, I have to rent. What are they doing? They're spending their money renting, giving it to somebody who just came from Venezuela because they had to flee Maduro's regime.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you can't really blame anybody in that situation. It's a bad situation for the Venezuelans because they're in a bad situation. They have to pull out of that country and put their money and park it somewhere where they're okay with it. They're generating some kind of interest, some kind of return, ROI. But at the same time, you're like pushing out the people who are here local, and it's a hard game to play because at a certain point, then it just becomes a city full of rent seekers.
It does.
And then when the city is full of rent seekers, then that's like a stagnant economy. Literally, there's no money moving. It's just like it's just extracting the money, pumping the money out, pumping the money out.
And with the poor distribution, like you said, all that money that's going into the luxurious condos and all the luxurious, hotels and whatnot, it could be going to the community, like you said, and that's creating like the poverty rate that we have now. Because the poverty rate right now, since 2014, in the statistic that they did, it's 20.4% in the city of Miami. And mind you, I'd say the Great Depression, was about 30%. Unemployment rate was like 30%, right? So we're gonna go into like a case study that I did too with Lakeview about how in their case they're about, I would say like 27% unemployment. So mind you, just told you like Great Depression was about like 30%.
Yeah.
So in a city like that means a majority of people are not even working in that area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that reflects the poverty level that's being witnessed here in the city.
But let's say they did want to work, right? What opportunities are they going to work at?
So that's the thing. So the thing about the tourism industry that thrives in Miami is that you have this low skilled labor, right? That they can only pay so much, right? So when you do say, okay, so what job should I get if I'm living, the poverty level? Well, if government had subsidized maybe some of the cost of living for those individuals, it would make it a lot easier. But no, even with that being said, and having the government not really like having to subsidize what should be subsidized, you see that because they can only turn to one industry, because there's only one industry in Miami that's tourism, it's hospitality. Yeah. It's the service that the valet guys, the housekeeping workers, the front desk recipients. These are all these are low skill jobs. This is not that I work at valet, man. I work valet. I'm not gonna tell you that parking a car is not out of this world. Like anyone can do it, right? But then you have to ask yourself, okay, if that's what is driving the industry in the city, how much can you give for opportunity? It's you're stuck. It's
feast or famine.
Exactly.
Feast or famine. Either you're like super paid and you're having a great time, or you're super like struggling and you're having a bad time and you're trying to get out the struggle, but there's no opportunities for you to get out the struggle. Even if you're trying to better yourself, even if you're trying to like get more education. I have friends who are getting tons of education in the medical fields because the medical field is something that I feel is gonna boom, especially with like all the aging retirees who are turning 65. There's like 10,000 people turning 65 daily. So that means medical community is going to boom. But even that, I have friends who have moved out of Miami because they're like, okay, I'm a registered nurse. I make X amount of money, good money, but I can't live with that here in Miami.
That's the thing. If you go to other parts of the country, and let's say you're making the same amount that you're making in Miami, you get double.
And you get ahead.
That too. So it's like it's almost like a head scratcher because it's not necessarily that you're not working hard enough. Is that even though you're at this pace, it does not meet the requirement at Miami, but doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't meet the requirements of a small town in North Carolina.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
exactly.
it would be more private. It would be, you're not around the hype. And it goes back to real estate, right? Real estate is all about location. Yeah. If you're anywhere near the word Miami, you're paying for the word Miami. Yeah, exactly. I live in Hialeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of like 30 minutes out from the beach. I'm trying to very far from the hub of what Miami is. Yeah. Yet we're still paying the same as someone that's almost living close to the beach. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's where it's frustrating because, like you said, it's going to drive out the people that make up the city. Yeah. At some point or another, as is the case in Key West, where It's gotten to that point. Property value is so high for workers, at least, that they're not even able to live in that area.
Yeah, they have a shortage of employees in Key West and in the lower Keys because of that. They can't afford to live there. And then this hurricane that came through basically demolished all the affordable housing that was there. So now they don't have anybody actually working in the Keys. So like, could you imagine the entire Key West like has so many hotels, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody could actually be there working. They have to drive 4 hours from the Keys to go get a job, to go work.
Some of these actual hotels that are set up in Key West provide transportation for those workers from Homestead, for example.
Yeah, I know.
Which is insane because it's like they're acknowledging that. It's like, hey, listen, we do understand that, you know, it's kind of hard for you guys to even afford living here, but yo, we got you the transportation though, so can you come work for us? Or
that's
like,
at least
good?
Something.
Right, exactly. At least they're accommodating for that, right? So it's a head scratcher though, because it's just like, at what extent or how much are you willing to sacrifice? You want to obtain this image, right? You said that we're now on a global scale. Miami is now being compared to a lot of major cities in the world, not just in this country, because it was a hidden gem of the country for a while. But now that it's on a global scale, it's like, you know, what are we sacrificing? Do we, as Miami, you know, I feel like Miami's okay with that. It's almost like, you know, we have a lot of culture here, but there's just so many other like factors that influence that, right? It's great to say that from Miami, you know, but do people really understand what that means? Do really people know like how much you're willing to, what you're sacrificing yourself, the amount of hours you have to work here just to even maintain your living, you know? But it's a balance of, you know, you see that it's hard to live here, but I mean, it's kind of worth it. No, you're still near the beaches.
I understand, but I see what you're saying. Ultimately, I would say it falls on, and it fell on the previous governments, you know, the people who are in charge of the county. Those people were the ones who were supposed to have foresight and see something like this coming, because they see the development coming. It's like I saw the development in Brickell coming. So you're like, you mean to tell me you know all these buildings are coming up, but you don't have enough water to power all those buildings, you know, like you don't have enough parking spaces for all those buildings,
right.
roads for all those cars,
of
all those, like,
of course.
What are you doing? What is it that you're doing at City Hall? What are you guys doing? Just like passing around contracts to each other, you know?
Right.
What's good? Like,
of course.
What's happening with the lack of foresight in our government centers that don't understand we have these problems and we need them to address it? Because, for example, you touched on transportation. People go from Homestead to Key West to work. Why do they do that? Because they can't live around Key West. But the private entities themselves have taken it upon themselves to do this transportation. This should be something that the government should take care of.
Of course,
they should, like, we have the worst metro in the world. Like, I swear to God, I go everywhere, any other city, and you could jump on a metro, and it's just like, I was in Chicago. Like, I went to Chicago for the Notre Dame game last year. Telling you, I'm a UM fan. You know what I'm saying? We're in New York, we're in Chicago, and like Chicago has all this awesome blue line, red line, like mad transportation. You go from one side to the city, the other side of the city. Like, you go, and it's very affordable. It's very easy to jump on, jump off. New York City, same thing. Like, why is it that we are now in 2018, now is when we're talking about extending the metro rail to like Kendall, etc.
Right.
Like, this shit, I was hearing this when I was like probably 10, 12 years old. This should have been taken care of.
Of course.
Something like this should have already been established. So right now, when things are getting to a head, we'd be ready and we'd be poised to take on all that development that is happening. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Of course. The case is the politicians put their head in the sand like ostriches, and they just keep bucking, you know, keep passing the buck to the next person until like, and then like nothing gets done. Right.
I don't want to generalize, because obviously there's a handful. At least there's like, I know there's a handful, because, you know, I did the research, and there's a handful that do try to at least say, hey, listen, guys, we should provide this alternative. But like you said, it's kind of late, isn't it? Isn't this something that should have been already brought up? And even with you mentioning that, are the majority even on board with that? You know, Mayor Jimenez is very hesitant to even try to provide more funding into the transportation system. And it goes back to, I'm pretty sure, because they're not putting enough money into that contract. Because I guarantee you, you know, even with the David Beckham Stadium, for example.
Oh my God.
If Miami is not getting a cut of that deal, they don't want to hear it. They rather put up a huge building in Bayside. I don't know if you know, if you saw that. They're trying to put up a huge tower on Bayside, which I find no point in. I'm like, all right, what's that? Like, what more? What is the point of putting a random tower on Bayside, as opposed to letting, you know what, maybe we should let David Beckham go ahead and, you know, try to set up some sort of new culture with and establish new culture with soccer, you know, especially since we're so Latino here and we don't have a soccer team to rep. Come on, how is that even possible?
Look, bro, with the soccer stadium, the soccer stadium is
give me the tea. Give me the tea.
The soccer stadium thing is kind of a little bit of like a pet peeve to me. It's something that really bothers me because David Beckham, right, comes to the city and attempts to say to me as a resident, I'm born and raised in South Florida. I'm from Miami. Like, David Beckham can't be more Miami than me ever. And he could own all the soccer teams in the world. Like,
Correct.
You don't come to my city and then say, "Oh, I'm gonna try to establish this team that's gonna be your team." BS on that, right? It's not gonna be your team. Like, if something happens 10 or 15 years down the road, he's not happy with the situation, he'll do what any other team owner does, and he'll just threaten to leave the city. So it's not the team city. It's not the city's team. It's his team first and foremost. Second of all, you show up to my city. You start buying up private property to set up your stadium, which I'm 110% behind. Like, yeah, do that. That's the way you should do it. You're a private entity. You should buy your own land and build your own stadium. Not buy your own land, say you're going to build a stadium there, then say, well, I don't like the way that it would be. It's not, Overtown isn't ready for this particular type of stadium. Let's try to take this resource that the community has and let's make it our resource. You see what I mean by income inequality? Like, the rich get richer. Like, this is a private entity who's going to try to take over a public park to put on their stadium and their buildings, and Mass Tech is going to make mass amount of money building up all that crap. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff.
Right.
All of that is a huge slap in the face. Like, it already happened with Marlins Park. Why you mean you tell me that downtown isn't poised for a revolutionary change? I know downtown is because I travel it all the time. Miami River right now is popping, son. Like, up and down Miami River,
absolutely.
It's gonna be like the next spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
His area and all the property he bought is literally across from the Miami River. So don't tell me, oh, the stadium isn't gonna be good there. No, what you're trying to do is you're trying to double dip. You're trying to buy that property, and then you say, well, I have this property, I'm not gonna build here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this public resource, take it from the public, because I could build my stadium here and take this private land that I bought and then build some development there, and I double dip and I make my money. Like, yo, you're slapping me in the face coming to my city telling me that.
Of course.
Like, that's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm just like, I get so irate at that. It's come on, bro.
Of course.
You can't come to my city, say, oh, I'm all about Miami and all about Dade County, and then you're gonna try to take away my resources.
Right.
That doesn't work, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna call a spade, and you're straight lying to me,
right.
Beckham. You know, when you say that, you're lying to me, and you're lying to the residents of South Florida, of Miami.
Right.
You're trying to put on a show telling me that, oh, we're gonna revolutionize this park. Well, you know what? Maybe it shouldn't be a golf park. Maybe it should be something else, but it should be a public resource. It shouldn't be going into private hands.
Right.
Regardless.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care. Like,
of course.
Unless you buy that straight out and then we get that money to do something else ridiculously, like, then I'm on board. But for you to try to tell me, oh no, this is all about the city and all about the people. No, this is not about the city and about the people. It's about you and Mass Tech making money. That's what it's about. And taking away the little resources that we have. We have little resources, man. Me and you make up the public. Everybody listening right now in South Florida is the public. We have small amount of things. He's gonna take away this park. You know what he wants? What they propose? Have you ever seen the underline?
No.
All right. Well, you know what the Metro Rail is, right?
Yes.
On US 1. On the Metro Rail, I bike that underline all the time.
Oh, yeah. It's right here.
So it's basically like a bike trail. He's going to supposedly turn that bike trail into a park, because you can't take away parkland without replacing parkland. So he wants to take away that park at the golf park and replace it with the underline. That's not apples for apples, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an extra slap in my face.
Right.
Like,
of course.
you're straight up just lying to me and then saying, "Oh, look at this awesome logo that I got for the FC." Like, no, I don't care about your logo. I don't care about, like, don't get me wrong. I love soccer. I'm Colombian. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a diehard soccer fan, but I love my city more than I love your soccer team.
But think about this for a second. How many people are going to pay attention to? Because at the end of the day, I would say Miami's still apolitical, right? So there's not much attention being brought, because a handful of people pay attention to Miami politics. A handful of people are participating, right? So it's almost, They're not seeing. It's a double. It's a weird balance of like what's the real intentions of what's being put out, right? And it's just like you said, there's a fan base here. At the end of the day, it's still the game, right? It's the game of where can I set up the best options for me to go ahead and maximize profits, and that's any entity does that.
I agree with it.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like how do you balance that? How do you really can you portray a good image and meet it with the right intentions, right? Well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break because this has been getting real good for y'all. We're bringing this out in the listen, guys. I love doing this, man. This is how we do it. We have the mics here. We have our voice. We gotta voice our opinion. This is the voice of the people, man. And for everyone that's listening, I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're learning a little bit something about the Wolf that's taking place in the city. If you did not know that there was one, well, now you do. And we're just gonna pick up a little bit more on that topic when we come back. But I want you guys to enjoy some commercial break. So when we do, we're gonna pick up where we left off and keep on enjoying. Make sure you guys keep locked to the voice. We'll be right back.
You've got WVUM, Coral Gables, Miami.
What are you taking a picture of?
Oh, just those two babies.
What are they doing?
Oh, they're just maxing out the credit cards on BB guns and water balloons.
Follow us on Instagram
at WVUM.
Wake Up Miami is back with more music and art from July to December, a series of concerts presented by Paxi. Enjoy free live music and performances bright and early every Monday morning at 8:30 at the Government Center Metro Station. To learn more, visit paxi.org. That is PAXY.org.
What is up, Miami? You're listening to WVUM 90.5 FM, the voice of the University of Miami. And you're tuned into Code 305, hosted by Octavia Rios, the man speaking to this mic right now. Ear. That means hello in my language where we come from. Anyway, I have in this week my special guest, Darren Figueroa. He is the creator of the media group Phresh and the host of his own podcast, Que Bola. And we've been discussing the wealth gap that's taking place in Miami, not only because is this relevant to us because we live here, but this is a trend that's happening not only citywide, but nationally and even globally. at different it's a case by case scenario, right? Because the demographics influence the wealth gap, how much everyone's making, your government, your form of government, how well do they react to whatever's going on. So a lot of different factors that influence the wealth gap that we've been talking about. But we dived into a little bit of the fact that property value is a lot higher than the wages that people earn here, given to the fact that we have a tourism industry and hospitality. So it makes it very difficult to be able to maybe increase the wages because of the fact that that kind of industry can only give so much, right? It's not a high skilled labor job. Also, we talked about the poverty rate in Miami, how it's at 20.4%. And, these are all things that are all tailored to, foreign investors coming in from Canada, Brazil, Venezuela, and other countries. And just honestly bringing us out of the late real estate boom that brought us out of the housing crisis that we experienced in 2007. But there's the negative effects that are to that, right? Because yes, they did help us come out of the housing crisis, but I feel like the working class is now a little shortly but surely disappearing, like the case that we've seen in Key West. Now, I do want to touch up with you, Darwin, about the transportation system. We did talk about a little bit of it. And there's pretty much a lack of funding for it, I would say, or a lack of reaction to it. We just recently, legislation passed for, bringing in new carts for the subway system that we have. I have ridden inside of them and they smell outdated. They look outdated. I mean, even when they stop, the rust from the wheels, you can smell it. I don't know if you've been on the metro wheel. You smell that rubber.
I rode the metro plenty of times.
And it's funny that you said that when you went to Chicago, other public transportation systems in the country a little bit better, a lot better if anything. And there was a guy from New York in the subway that day. And he was talking and he was like, man, it smells like burnt rubber. How do they not notice? And like he was looking around because it does smell like burnt rubber. Yeah. And he was like, why is no one saying anything about that? That's weird, man. This place the transportation here is complaining about it. And it's true, man. We have not reformed or even updated the carts that run the metro rail since 1980, since the beginning of it opening back in those days, man. So the fact that we're doing something about it now, like you said, why are we raising questions to this now? We've had X amount of years, and now is when we're deciding to go ahead and dive into that. Makes no sense. But anyway, we're gonna dive into that. So the fact that how long do you take to go to work or anywhere? Let's say you're coming from Hialeah, Doral, maybe. Like how long would you say it would take you to get to like Coral Gables area?
From Hialeah?
Yeah,
like at least 45 minutes to an hour.
With traffic or without? Because I know there's a difference. Because without traffic, anywhere here is pretty quick.
Tell me sometime that there's no traffic in Miami.
That's the thing.
You know what? What do you mean without traffic? You mean at 5 in the morning?
Yeah. I mean late night
without traffic time.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. The distances are not far if you think about it. Like Miami's a decent amount, like a size city, but like everything's at least like 12-mile radius, right?
Everything's spread out.
Right.
We're one of those cities that's spread out. So like, if you don't have a good transportation system, then obviously you're gonna have to commute. You're in your own private car. We don't really do carpooling here because people don't like to carpool. They don't. I guess it's part of the cultural identity of South Florida. People don't like sharing anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Their car. They want their privacy while they're driving. Well, if you're gonna do a 2-hour commute, you want to do it by yourself, I guess.
Right, of course.
So you could be like yogaed out or something. Maybe
bumping.
Do something, because you have an hour and a half, 2 hours in a car. Like, okay, could you imagine living like in Homestead or Cutter Ridge? Or I was born and raised down south. I originally lived in Westchester, then I moved down to Goulds, Richmond Heights, right, which is down south, right. From Richmond Heights or Goulds, let's say Goulds, 216th Street. From Goulds, all the way to downtown is probably gonna take you an hour and a half in the morning, right? And probably another hour and a half in the evening. So that's about, let's say just on average, let's say if we just cut it down to an hour each way, it would be 2 hours daily in your car. You're spending 2 hours a day in your car commuting to and from work. You're not getting paid for that, and you're being stressed out the entire time, right? So that's what, 2 times 5, 10 hours a week that you're spending in your car bugging out. Because why? Because of the amount of traffic, because the lack of foresight from our community leaders. I mean,
absolutely.
That's basically where it comes from.
Yeah. It's a lack of funding in the transportation. So I think here's a problem, right? We've grown. The city has grown a lot quicker than it's anticipated because for example, the Palmetto, We've constructed new highways that have connected us to different other parts of the other highways that are in the city, I-75 and the Turnpike. But they're still constructing, right? You've seen that they're still trying to open the lanes, and even with that, it's still not working. And they're about to add tolls to the Palmetto now.
That's crazy.
Okay, that's getting me mad. That right there gets me mad too. But whatever. But I mean, that's a form of it goes back to the governing, man. There has to be other ways where we can gather
governance, man. You know? Okay, so like, all right, so the lack of governance plays in part to what. Let's be transparent and clear, right? Miami is one of those cities where even at the highest levels of halls of power, there is corruption and there is that handshake stuff, right? That back handshake stuff. I'm born and raised in Miami. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen it. I've partaken in part of it. Like, that's part of South Florida, right? There's a reason why the Palmetto's never going to finish being under construction, because the people who got the contract to build the Palmetto are making a ton of money. So every single time that they make a little change, that change order right there is going to make them a lot of money, right? So like these are things that like the general public knows, and it's in the head, like in their head, but they don't like address it. There's nothing to address the fact that we're such a corrupt city that it permeates every aspect of our city. Like transportation, like everything, it comes down to everything. So how do we fix these things? There's no political will to fix these things. Why? Because I feel that we're a city who's fragmented. We have so much unique cultural identities that within each culture, with each, like the Colombians, the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, the Nicaraguans, the Haitians, they all kind of stay like in their own little silos. And then within those little silos, what happens is there's division. If we were to put all those differences aside and actually pay attention to the problems that we're facing as a community, then we would have a little bit more of a political will to bring these people to task and have them do the things that need to be done. Like, there's no reason that it's 2018 and we still haven't started on expanding the Metro Rail into Kendall. Like, come on, Kendall is one of the largest, if not the largest, like second, maybe Hialeah. Is it like Hialeah and Kendall? Hialeah should have its own Metro Rail extension.
Absolutely.
Kendall should have its own Metro Rail extension. It's 2018. And it should have started in 2011 when they knew it was happening, when they saw the development happening. And they should have done it then, but they didn't. And it's 2018 and they still haven't started it.
Well, they're now starting plans to go ahead and actually do what you're saying, right? But it should have been already done a long time ago, because like you said, is it already too late? Yeah, I do understand, like better late than never, but I mean, at this point, since we are late, is it gonna be done on time? Will we have the money to go ahead and gather for that, to even be able to fund it as a city? Because a lot of people, we need to be able to fund these programs, but we need to understand that we need to have like higher taxes. You know what I'm saying? So in order to do that, but that's something that people don't like to do. They don't like to hear the word higher taxes, because obviously, no one wants to pay. You're already making X amount. You don't want to have to now not even see any of your paycheck coming back to you, right? Because it's all going to the city, which is what makes the political situation very. Because I know there's a handful at least that I know of through my research that actually cared about trying to even develop some sort of proposal, right? Because there's a lot of corruption in the city, but at least there's a handful that are trying to change that, right? But I just want to say,
exception to the rule. That's not the rule.
Right. That's the thing. That's the problem. That's the status quo is not to be of that, So that's exactly the problem. But I do want to go back to the fact that, a lot of people, 75% of the city does drive alone on the highway to go, and our commute time is 30 minutes on average. That's higher than the 25-minute average of the nation. So in the country, people are commuting on average 25 minutes. We're doing it 30 minutes, if not more, because like you said, if I'm going from Hialeah, for example, at 8 in the morning, let's say, not even 10, 8 in the morning, the time everyone's trying to get into the car, if you left home late, you see everyone the same, everyone's aggressive, they're all trying to get to work. For me, at least when I go to school, I have to endure Hialeah's traffic, then the Rouse traffic, and then the traffic in Coral Gables.
Wow.
And as I'm going on my way, I'm like, man, this place continues to be constructed, but I still feel like we're getting fuller like a city. I feel like we're letting in more people and not giving ourselves enough time to accommodate to those that are already here. So that way we can provide a better transportation system. Because at the end of the day, we need to extend to the Kendalls. We need to extend to the Hialeahs, because without making it more accessible to reach the downtown areas, without making it accessible to reach the buildings, the luxurious industry that is thriving in Miami, who's going to be able to go ahead and clean those rooms?
Yeah.
Who's going to be able to maintain those rooms? Maintenance engineers. Who's going to be the front reception desk worker? Who's going to be the one working valet? If you're not making it accessible and making it easier for those to commute to those places, you're making it harder for everyone that's living on that, you know. And it all goes back to what's the answer then, right?
It ends up destroying the community, honestly. You know, like what we're talking about is basically a problem that has been like messing with South Florida, Miami. I would say hardcore, like really been bothering, like really been an issue in South Florida maybe the last 15 years, because in the last 15 years after the recession, right, we were booming prior to the recession hit, everything slowed down, right? When everything slowed down, then there wasn't that much cars on the road, because there weren't that many apartments that were being built, people moving back and forth. There was still a lot of traffic, but not as much as it is now, right? How do we address a situation, a tsunami that like appears like it just came out of nowhere, but it didn't come out of nowhere? Like I saw this coming a long time ago,
right,
you know?
Right.
But now everybody's like up in arms about it. The traffic is crazy, this and that. There's the cost of living is out of hand, is astronomical. Like there's no good paying jobs. Like how do we address these situations? You just tackle each one piece by piece.
Right.
I mean, the first thing we got to realize is that we are a hub for hospitality and tourism. Like, okay, let's agree the fact that that's our major industry. Our second major industry is development. You know, the developers are the ones who are making all these high-end luxury areas.
And the trade, because the Port of Miami does trade a lot of goods that come in and out from the international, like on the international scale.
I would say Port of Miami is probably like third.
Right. No, but it's up there. No,
Yeah,
right, you're right.
there,
That's one of those things that drives the economy. But
Exactly.
continue.
So it's one of those situations where the way that you attack it piece by piece. You like say, okay, the answer isn't more cars on the road. The answer is better transportation. So how do you answer? Don't extend the Palmetto to like 20 lanes.
Yeah.
Like, stop that. Like, stop putting more cars on the road and start investing in ways for people to move without needing a car.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like,
Absolutely.
Bro, let's try to like this. All right, so Mayor Jimenez has that fast bus thing. That fast bus thing, unless it has its own bus lane, is not gonna work.
Right.
Man. Like the fast bus. What fast bus? Do you have a bus that's gonna fly over
Can you
cars?
explain that piece of legislation that he came out with?
So we have this issue where they're trying to extend the metro rail, right? But the project was going to be like 1.5 billion or something.
Yes.
Supposedly we don't have the money for that.
Yes.
So we have.
We don't want to be able to gather that money.
We don't. Yeah. It's either we don't have the money, or what it is we don't have the political will to ask people for that money. That's what it is. So since there's no political will to ask people for the money, what they're gonna do is they're gonna try to put a band-aid over it, just like they do everything else. But what is gonna happen? Okay, you'll solve a problem for maybe like a year or two.
Correct. And then, and it's gonna reappear with a new one. Absolutely.
The new problem.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because look at that. That's happening at the local scale, right? But that's also taking place statewide and even with other situations in the country. Yeah. So if that's happening at the federal level, look how already that affects us at the local. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And in regards to like that plan that you're talking about, it's called the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization that was established. And the extension would reach into the Miami Beach Convention Center, Florida International University, which is in the Westchester area, the Kendall area, Chrome Avenue, Northwest 215th Street, City of Aventura, and Florida City. That's not bad, because that's pretty much where that's exactly what you're saying. It's there's more. We need to be putting these public transportation rail systems in the vicinity of the hubs, of the Kendalls, right? And that's why they're trying to come up with that plan. But like you said, when are we going to be able to do it? You know, we need to be able to put the money together. There's a lot of hesitation in part of the politicians that are involved, but at least it's something that commissioners are coming up with to at least. That's what at least for me, that's what I'm asking for. I understand it's already too late, but some sort of steps need to be taken. Someone needs to have to be able to step down, put a foot down, be like, listen, we need to come up as a city, as commissioners, as politicians, with the plan that can make this happen, and let's get the money together. So, you know, the question for where that can come from as far as revenue is concerned, obviously is scrambling around for it, but you know, at least they're looking around for that. You know what I'm saying?
It's a hard situation. You know, I'm not gonna say, oh, that it's easy to being a politician or whatever, blah blah blah, because it probably isn't. It's probably like the hardest thing in the world. But like, bro, putting band-aids over like gunshot wounds is never gonna work, man.
Right.
I'm sorry, like I don't care how hard it is for you to do your job, but like you got to come up with a better situation than that. Like the last thing I read is like, oh, let's try to move the jobs to Florida City and to Kendall. How are you're not private industry. You don't tell the private industry where to set up shop. They set up wherever they want to set up. Like they're gonna be, oh, let's try to move the jobs to Kendall. Yeah, that would be a good idea if the people wanted to set up shop in Kendall. You know what I'm saying? Then it would alleviate traffic. People wouldn't have to drive as far to go work. You know, the vast majority of people work either in Coral Gables or downtown Miami. Those are the two hubs of jobs. So like, how do you incentivize people to move their businesses out of Coral Gables, out of downtown
Because that's
Miami
the thing,
to Florida City?
Exactly, that's the thing, because
Hialeah.
the hub, where all these investors are coming into, the Miami beaches,
Exactly.
the downtowns, right?
Wynwood,
all
know?
those. There's the hub is still near the beach. I mean, but what do people come here for? What do people come here for? Isn't it those? Isn't that what is attracting
That's what
people?
they come for.
You know, so it's for you to say, okay, let's move it out of that industry. How many? They're all gonna laugh at you.
Yeah,
They're gonna laugh at
exactly.
you. It's like, listen, I'm making money here. Why am I gonna go over yonder somewhere else when the money's talking here?
Yeah.
And it goes back. That's how Miami behaves, though.
Yeah.
The city. Ever since it was built in the 80s off of drug money, it's
Yeah.
just whatever way we can gather income.
Yeah,
whatever
I
we
mean,
can get that.
It would be good if we could establish another industry here and then
Right.
try to do something like, okay, we're going to establish our own version of Silicon Valley, and it's going to be in Homestead. And that's where we're going to put all our resources, and we're going to try to build that out and do that. That would be great. But unfortunately, they've tried that over and over and over. They tried it up north in West Palm Beach when they tried to establish like a pharmaceutical hub area, and that really didn't work too much because I mean incentives were there for the companies to show up, and they took the incentives, and when the incentives run out, then like, all right, peace out, bro.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Of course,
Like,
of
that's
course.
the way it works. You know?
Yeah.
That's the way business works. Like same thing that like off topic, but the same thing kind of like what happened in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico used to be like a tax haven, and then like the tax haven status basically ran out like in 2008, you know, and then Puerto Rico was left destitute, and now they're trying to reestablish that through like Article 20 and Article 22 that Puerto Rico established for a new tax haven. But like that's the only way. But if you incentivize it, right, you're taking money out of somebody else's pocket. So you're saying, okay, I'm going to incentivize this private entity to come to Homestead or Florida City or et cetera, instead of spending the money on my residents and on my community, I'm going to spend it on this private entity so they can set up shop here. So then it's like, who are you favoring here? Like,
no,
you're
but that's
saying
the
you're trying
point.
to help us out, but at the same time, you're trying to help us out, like in a roundabout way where you could also help yourself out.
Exactly. But they are helping themselves. If anything, they're helping us, but they're getting more of the end of the stick than we are.
Of course.
So it's like, yeah, you're pitching that you are helping, but really, how is that? How reflective is that statistic? How much of that statistic is really going to us? You know, I live now. You know, you've heard about the biggest ball in America being located now in Miami, like by the Hialeah area, by
the biggest ball,
the biggest mall. My bad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That one. Yeah. So I live in that area,
yeah.
and at one point it used to be back in 2007, 2008. That used to be the furthest out. Like, that was the most suburban you can get, right? Like the Palm Springs North area, like Show My Home area. Shout out to everyone listening that knows about that area. By the way, you know how it is. Traffic's getting bad over there. But there's the fact that mall's gonna be established there. How much do you think the property value is gonna go up? How much more traffic? And it was a quiet little town where I'm at, dude. Now the traffic in the morning is ridiculous. A traffic that I would never had seen.
And that's without the mall.
Imagine when the mall comes through, bro. And at that point, I mean, who's to say I might not move out? You know, I might move out at that point just because, like, will it get to that? It's like, how long are we gonna let this happen till it gets to the point where, like, bro, I really can't afford it anymore. I'm tired. You know, you joked around. You know, like you put on your Instagram. You know, everyone here in Miami has 2 jobs and a part-time fraud.
Yeah,
but that's because people are just trying to find a way to make it here, man. It's like it's the system itself for the working class it's set up for you to have to do that. It's almost like they put you in a situation like that. And at the end of the day, it's reflective of the way that Miami behaves. It's all about what sort of scam can I come up with, right? What sort of way can I get how can my end of the stick benefit a lot more than it would for maybe the public? You know?
And I mean, as a private person, you could take that view, it's not a problem. But as a government, you shouldn't take that view.
That's the thing, man. Because at the end of the day, like the government can have a say whether a yes or a no to that. Okay, no, you should change your contract and because At the end of the day, they have to go to the city for ordinances, for the coding, to be like, hey, listen, we're your developers. They can be easily like, hey, listen, man, no. But it gets tricky because, you know, they probably might cut the politician a certain amount of that check too. It's like, hey, listen, man, I'm gonna win, you can win too.
You scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Right, so then it's like, all right, man, should I be good about this and maybe not make that same amount of money and maybe have to go to my wife tonight and be like, babe, listen, at least I'm trying to help out the community, you know, all that stuff. You think I'm gonna cut it for the wife? No, she'll probably leave them, right? So it's like going back to, you know, putting ourselves in their shoes, you know. I get it, but at the same time, you have to understand that by doing that, by taking these like your cut of the profit from these contracts, look what you're doing. Look what you're harming. You're harming the people that make up the city itself. You're driving the people that make up the culture, bro.
Yeah, you're killing the essence of the city. Basically, you're going
the soul
of the city. You're basically killing it, and you don't care. Like there's nobody cares because they're in a situation where they're enriching themselves, you know, like the developers here are enriching themselves, and at the same time they're slapping their name on everything, you know, because they want this legendary legacy, you know, like the Pam or whatever, et cetera, where it's just like, oh, the George Perez area, like come on, bro. Like, is that what it's all about? It's all about you, like, just talking about yourself. Like, oh, this is so good for the city for me to put this museum here and my name on top of it. So everybody, like, come on, man. Is that really it's all about? Like, you're just gonna straight put your name on everything like a dog? Like, I'm peeing on this, I'm peeing on that.
Of
like,
course.
No, man. Like, you're a developer. You've made tons of money, and what you want to do with all that money is put your name on everything.
No, that's what I'm saying. Look, I'm not trying to say that, like, all right, that's create progress, right? Because at the end of the day, now we're competing with the LAs and the New Yorks because of these types of contracts that are being cut. What I'm complaining about is that the contracts can be written up in a way where, yes, you can still win, but we should also win too as a community. It should not just only be tiered 80% for you guys to get that.
But this goes down to one problem, right? And that is power. Power only speaks to power. So, like, I understand you're a developer and you're making tons of money. I applaud you. Keep doing that. But at the same time, you're living in a community. So if you're making these tons of money, all this money, unless you're just thinking about like putting it all in a tax haven and riding out on the community, which probably are, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a good look for you, dude. It's not a good look. It's like, bro, like, let's try to. And the people who should mitigate this is City Hall. That's where, like, me and you can't mitigate this because we don't have those kind of resources and we don't have that kind of power. But City Hall does have that kind of power and does have those kind of resources. And they could, if they wanted to, be more stringent and take more out of that area instead of taking from the poor. Just like with the soccer stadium deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, who you going to? You're going to the public. You put this on a ballot. Why do you put it to the public? Because you want to wash your hands of it. So if it happens, the people let it happen. Even if like 30 people show up and vote it, right? Like, that's normally how things go down here. Like, when they don't want nobody to talk about it, you know, like, 30 people showed up and they voted for this and that was enough for them to pass whatever, etc. resolution. Like this soccer deal thing, it should be more stringent than that. Like, you should put more strings on this. Like, no, that's not the way it works. They're just like, whatever, you know, you do your thing. If the people don't pay enough attention to it, no importa, they don't care about it, whatever it is, what it is, and we keep it popping. And then you just keep extracting more resources out of the poor people, keep more resources out of the middle class and the middle income. And then what happens is you turn back and you look and there's no middle class and there's no, there's no middle class. And if there's no middle class, then what's left? Like, what is going to be left here? It's just going to be like, is going to be feast or famine. It's like Latin America. It's like really going to be like Latin America, like in Colombia or Venezuela or whatever. It's like you're really rich or you're really poor. I've been to Haiti 2 times. I'm Colombian and I've been to Haiti 2 times. That lets you know how South Florida pops off, all right? So it's like one of those situations where like I mix with everybody here. In Haiti is one of those situations where you're either really, really, really rich or you really, really, really poor, dog. There's like no middle class, bro. The middle class is a sliver, you know? And I see how those powers work to keep that status quo as is in that country. And I could see the same type of things popping off here in South Florida. And it's just disheartening because it's just like, wow, like I love the city, but like, am I really gonna put myself and my family through this because of how much I love the
Look
city.
at that dilemma it creates for people that's what gets me mad too. It hurts though, because you know how much we pride ourselves in being from here.
I bleed Miami,
yes,
bro.
we bleed it, but what's making me mad is almost like the city doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah, they don't care.
You know what I mean? It's because of that dilemma it starts creating in your mind. It's like, yeah, I love the city, but like, does the city even want me here? Does the city even want me to be making enough money to afford the hype that is surrounded by the name?
And I'm not asking for much.
Right,
I'm just asking
right.
for like an area that's affordable.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Yes.
just asking for like maybe like you put up 3 high-rise luxury condos, and how about you make 1 regular condo building not for ultra luxury or ultra wealth, you know, like something for people who could afford it in the city. Like these kind of resolutions, I know that Miami Beach has been trying to do something like that.
Right, they've been trying. So like, yeah, so they're giving credit, right?
Yeah.
So they
Give
have been
credit
trying.
where it's due.
Exactly, they've been trying to come up with ways and spots within the area that they can pop up affordable housing, so that way workers don't have to travel so far and still stay in close proximity to be able to go to their job and not have to wake up hours earlier just to go ahead and reach a destination that really would take about 20 minutes, just because of the distance it is from. But due to traffic, it does go up some more. But that's the frustrating part, you know. But at least they are giving that we're trying to get. I want to give credit to that, you know.
Yeah, I give
shout out to you guys
like,
for that.
Shout
you know?
out to, you know what, Miami Beach. It took you a long time, but at least you came to the forefront, city of Miami Beach, and they're like thinking of new innovative ways to attack this problem.
Correct.
Everyone else, I don't know what they're doing.
Right,
Están tremendo, you know, like
Tremendo lío que estamos aquí.
formando tremendo lío,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly.
It's a crazy one, bro.
So guys, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, man. We've been going hard in the paint like walk a flock, man. No, we like to do this for you guys. We provide a good entertainment, but keep it locked to The Voice. We'll be right back. When we do come back, we're just gonna pretty much go into what you do, Darwin, and pretty much your media group and your the clothing that you come out with, just the podcast, and we're gonna go really deep, man. So everybody here listening, make sure y'all keep it locked. When we come back, we got more for you. We will not disappoint.
And you're listening to WVUM 90.5 FM, the voice of the University of Miami, Coral Gables, Florida.
Wednesdays 4 to 6, it's One Nation Under Groove by Jordan, a 2-hour funkified session of old